friends, welcome back. Gabriel Kevin here. How are you today? I'm doing great. I hope you're having a great day. This is another installment in my series of music tutorials covering from recording to mixing to producing and all that stuff in between. And today we're going to talk about songwriting. And this is a very subjective subject, so take that as it is, that it is subjective, and everybody kind of pretty much will probably do it their own way. So what I want to do today is at least show the process that I go through, and maybe that can help you in terms of how you do things, or give you some ideas and new things to try and see how that works out for you. So today I'm not in my recording studio, obviously, and this is my living room in my house, and it's one of the places where I will tend to more write songs or write lyrics and stuff like that, because it's a little more relaxed. I do write in the studio when I'm using an amplifier or something, but sometimes if I'm just going to be using an acoustic guitar like this nice little Martin here, I'll hang out here or someplace where it's quiet and it's kind of relaxed. So I think it lets the music songwriting juices flow better. So the first thing I want to talk about is there's all different ways I think you can write a song. And if you're listening to this, either you've written songs, or you want to write songs, or you've been trying to write songs. So here's the process that I go through. One of the things that I think is important is some folks will start out with lyrics. They'll start out with a story, and there'll be no music, and they'll just start with lyrics, and then from those lyrics they're going to apply music to it. I don't do it that way. I will come up with an idea or something that moves me, whether it's something that angers me or something that is mystical, like yellow butterfly, or something that happens to me, or just anything. It's just something that's emotional that makes me want to do something with music with it. And with me, it's never really planned out. And sometimes I'll just pick up the guitar and just noodle on something and just play some chords, play a G chord, D, they always go together, right? And just mess around with stuff, and all of a sudden something comes out. So how do I start? Well, the main thing that I think to me is I start out with the instrument, and I always use the guitar. I can do it on keyboards, but I tend to do it on guitar. I don't know, there's a certain feel that I have with a certain relationship that I have with my guitars. And it just comes out that way. So I'll either use an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar, and the electric guitar could be whether it's a clean sound, like a bluesy sound with some delay on it, or it could be a metal sound, and I'll just mess with it. And again, it's a matter of just having the ideas come out. And with the ideas coming out, every day is going to be different to me. But here's the thing that I always start out with, and again, I will write the lyrics after the fact. Unless somebody presented me with something with lyrics, I'm still probably more modified, because the lyrics to me follow the music more than the music follow the lyrics, in my opinion. But you can put it in the comments whatever you think. But I always start out with a hook. If I'm doing something and I'm writing something and it's not a hook, I'll abandon it. I'm not, and generally therefore I'm probably starting out with something that's going to end up being the chorus, which is usually where the hooks are. So if you don't know what a hook is, it's a hook. No, a hook is something that hooks you into the song. So a favorite part of a song, a Beatles song, or any kind of song that you love to hear the most is the hook. And that's usually what makes you either buy the song or stream the song. So by starting with the hook, that gives me that feel of something. And then I'll actually apply some words to that. And I'm going to give some examples here. And I'll apply some words to that. Maybe it's mumbo jumbo. Just a real quick thing. I work with another songwriter over the years, and he plays piano, and he never writes lyrics. He just doesn't write lyrics. So he would come to me with a song, something he's building, and then I would work with him. But he would start out with the music. We would end up doing the music together, and then I would always write the lyrics. So it's, again, all different ways that this can work, especially when you're collaborating. So I come up with the hook and I add some words to it. because I want to hear that vocal melody. And I should go back a second. I don't necessarily I'll add words, but I'll add that vocal melody. What is the vocal melody that's going along with this thing? And we're going to use some examples of my current songs. Once that's established, then I'm going to move on to the verse. And this is probably where more of the storytelling, or whatever the theme is going to come out more in the verse to me, and the chorus is going to be the culmination, the climactic part of that. And then eventually, if the song has a bridge, or I feel it has a bridge, I'll add a bridge. But I do like adding bridges because it takes you from a verse, your normal structure, verse to chorus, and a bridge just kind of changes the mood, kind of just like redirects the listener, redirects yourself too as you're writing it, and redirects and then just adds this other part that can bring you back into the actual song again, and it kind of uplifts the song once it comes back into the main part, whether you usually come back to a chorus or sometimes to a verse. So that's me. I'll start with a hook, definitely a vocal melody in the hook. So to me, it's the chords, and then adding some kind of something to it, and some words will come out. I'll write the words down, but I'll write the chords down, and and then I'll go to the verse and I'll do that. So we're gonna have some examples. The one thing I really want to stress, whether you're doing this formally, in a studio, or whether you're just doing it like I'm doing right here, record it. Record it, please. Take your smartphone, put it on, record. Doesn't have to be a video record, just a record. Video record would be good because you can see the chords you're playing. And the reason, or if you're in the studio, you have a room record, that's great. Whatever, record it. Here's why. The next day, you're going to forget, or at least I do. I'll do something later at night, and I'll come up with, like some cool thing. I'm like, this is so cool. Right, and I'll remember it. Next day, no idea. And I'm like, oh no. Then I'll spend like an hour trying to figure it out, and it was a waste of time. So do something, you find something good, grab that phone, grab something, record it. Grab somebody else's phone. Record it, because that way you remember. And then when you record it, speak out the chords as you're playing it, so you'll remember. And that'll always work. And then how do I remember the vocal melody? Well, if I'm recording it, I can hear the vocal melody. But sometimes if I don't have a recorder, I'll write down the chords, but then I'll also, work out. What does that sound like? I just hit that. It sounds like something. Oh, it sounds like Casablanca. That was weird. And I'll write down those notes of that vocal melody. I'll say, so I remember the notes of the vocal melody if I don't have a recorder around. So just a note. I know I'm over pounding this, but it's really, so many times I've been frustrated that I've done stuff that was really nice and I've lost it forever. So let's move on. So the next thing that I would do is I would actually put down a scratch recording in my DAW, DAW, Digital Audio Workstation, and I talk about that in most of my tutorials. And it's like Pro Tools or Studio One, which I use, and I'll put down a scratch recording so I can work out the arrangement. Now, your normal arrangements, typical, would be an intro, a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, a bridge, a chorus, or multiple choruses, and an outro. You don't have to follow that, you don't have to have a bridge. You can do it anything you want. Music is subjective. But that would be a typical type of thing. Now, I'm not going to work out an intro right up front. I will work out, like I said, the chorus and the verse and maybe a bridge, but I want to get that arrangement down. And I'm going to use the arranger track in Studio One after I put that down, so I kind of lock myself in a little bit, not forever, just to have an ability to start doing some kind of producing, what kind of instrument that I want to use. Maybe I used an acoustic guitar when I started, but I really want it to be a metal guitar. So that's what I'll do next. So definitely put down an arrangement, scratch recording. Doesn't have to be perfect, it could be. And I'll just put that down, and that'll also help me get the tempo down. So I'll have an initial tempo, and I'll have the arrangement down. And this is important because once you have the arrangement, you can start listening back to what you did. There's a big difference between playing the song and listening back to it as a recording. And I think a lot of musicians or songwriters either don't know that or forget it it's fun to play it, but you have to hear the song from a songwriting point of view and from a producing point of view, played back, and you're the listener. I think there's a big difference. Because you get into playing, get emotional playing, and sometimes you might think something's great, but it's not. Up to you. Anyway, that's what I would do. So I would put down a scratch recording and then listen to it back and make sure I like the arrangement as I hit the note. I like the arrangement and I like the tempo. Now, okay, cool. Now I might start working on an intro or an outro, but that's what I would actually put down next. And then after that, once you have that down, I think you're kind of getting out of the songwriting mode a little bit and you're getting more into the producing mode. You have the song, you're happy with it. You might make changes to some of the chords and stuff like that, but you wouldn't have gone, I don't think, as far as to put down a scratch recording if you weren't happy already with the hook of the chorus, the way the verse sounds, some of the, especially the vocal melodies, and especially another thing, when you put down that in the DAW as a scratch recording, you can start really working on vocal melodies. Because it's not always the same singing while you're playing, singing without playing, and singing to it coming out of the recording, and then you can listen back to it, and then you can hear, oh, I'd like to change that, or I'd like to change this. To me, that's really important, to get from the instrument in the songwriting mode, not the producing mode, instrument to the recording, listen back to the recording as a listener. I want to get to collaboration and how collaboration can work and how collaboration cannot work. But before I do that, I'd like to get to some examples of some of my songs that how they developed. One example is going to be where you're taking from an older song, a piece of it, and you build a new song around it. My song Holding On To is exactly that, and I'm going to show that in a minute. The other one is something just building it from scratch. It just comes to you and you know, you just, bam, there it is, there's the hook, and it's something new. So let's talk about Holding On To, where you're taking something from a prior song. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Beatles have done. You know, if you have old material, that's a source for some good stuff. Because sometimes you write a song and there's some really good part to it, and the rest is like, eh. And so you trashed it years ago, and you have it hopefully saved it in a library, and always go back to that library and listen and go, wow, I like that part. So the part of the song I'm holding on to is the chorus that I took from another song. And it was actually the bridge to another song. So that would be, holding on to the time, wishing in my mind, hoping. Now that's a different vocal. And that's what it was. It was C, E minor, A minor, F. Holding on to the time, wishing in my mind, hoping. And it repeated that again and again. But I didn't like that because it has a little dirgy, you know, like dirgy, like sad to it. So I started messing around. And I thought, let me see something here. I like the C. Now the E minor, the next note, and the A minor are both minors, so they have a sad sound to it. So it's like, hold on to the time, hoping. I like that first part. Then I thought, you know, if you know music theory, you know that, if you can just see visually, an E minor is very close to a C major 7th. In fact, in a C major 7th, if you take the C out, it's an E minor. So all that's happening here is I move this one note up to here, if you know guitar, and instead of the E minor, I played around with it. And I thought, well, what if I did a C major 7th? Now this to me is songwriting. This is like, I'm not happy with something, I like some of it, but now I'm gonna work it. And if you work with somebody else, you know, that can help out too, but then you're gonna get their ideas too. So what I did was, and I hope this is helping, and then I changed the next part to, and then I repeat that. So when it's sung, and bear with me on my singing here, there's no mic, there's no reverb. Hold on to the time, wishing in my mind, hoping somehow I'll make it through. Holding on to the time, So if you see that, C major 7's pretty. All major 7s are pretty. Write that down. All major 7s are pretty. I know somebody who just works with major 7s. Sometimes it gets too pretty, but so it's the first one is kind of cool because it grabs it. A minor, F, and then instead of the E minor as the second chord, and then I add the G. It's kind of gives a movement forward, and the G goes always nicely back to a C. So. Hold on to the times in my mind, hoping somehow love will make it through. Holding on to the time. Now that whole part, to the time, all that part of my vocal, I just made up. It just came to me. That wasn't part of the original thing. The only thing of this chorus that was the original thing that I took from the song was a C, E minor, A minor, F. But I don't want to keep doing that because, you know, not that it's boring, but it gets a little boring, but putting that C major 7th in there, that did it too. Now I have that, okay. So now I have a chorus and I was doing the vocal melody. I didn't have the words. Well, part of the words came from the original one. And then I thought, I need a verse. Verse, happen, please, do me a verse. So, since this resolved on the C, I figured the verse should start with a C. So, you know. And then instead of playing the C here, I went to the bar chord C. And I don't know, maybe it's inspiration, maybe it's whatever, but I kind of was just playing with chords. I'll do this. Nah, don't work. That works, but it's not what I want. Yeah, that's okay. And then eventually, and all I'm doing is messing around on the guitar. I know what I want. I know what I want. I'll know it when I hear it. Because now I'm already hooked into the chorus, and I'm going to work this. And this could take hours, this could take days. It could take a second. But songwriting is work. You got to work at it. You got to work out, you know, don't just accept, you know, just don't accept that if that's not what you feel, that doesn't sound right to you. So eventually, I came up with this. So that's cool. So that's just a C, E minor, F, E minor. Pretty simple. This is the verse I'm working out. So then I came up with words for that and a vocal melody, and the words actually came to me, and that's where it's forever girl, forever boy, forever Paris and Helen of Troy. I don't like that one. Then it sounded, I think Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in history, you know, Greek mythology. Do it again. That last E minor didn't sit right with me. Forever girl, forever boy, forever Paris and Helen of Troy. So I gotta change that guy. It's not sitting right with me. So eventually, after working it out, here's the chord that it ended up being. Forever girl, forever boy, forever Paris and Helen of Troy. A G. Because first of all, it's not a minor. And Helen of Troy. And then the next time around, I go back to the E minor. Forever boy, and then forever I will. And then I had to get out of this to get back to the chorus. I could have gone. Time. But I wanted something like that built into it. And it just came to me to do, and I was messing around with it again. It's all messing around, and it ended up being. Hold on to the time. that was kind of cool. So it was like the verse then developed into this, which it is today. Forever girl, forever boy, forever parents and all of joy. And if you listen to the recording, I push these strings out right at that moment. That's production, not songwriting. Forever world, forever boy, forever I will, all is now and right before boom, man, I was like, there it is. Yeah, yeah. And that was cool. So, and that little progression thing, sometimes you want to do like a dun, 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 dun kind of thing into a chorus, is pretty much, F, E minor. I was going to do D minor, and I thought that still sounds a little saddy kind of thing. So it was like D minor 7th versus a D minor. This is D minor. This is D minor 7th. Sweetens it up a little bit. Still minor. So it's it goes right into the C. Beautiful thing. So I know I'm going along with the song, but I'm trying to get the process that I do. I'll get something, I'll have some kind of hook, or I'll take it from another song, and I'll modify to something that I like. I'll add the vocal melody to that hook. I'll then work out a verse, and the verse will be it just has to happen somehow, that there's a feeling in me. And what it is, again, is I don't just go, oh, I got to figure it out. I just mess around until I hear something, and one chord going to another chord will make me go, that's good. It's like building block. Oh, that's good. What's next? Oh, that's good. Okay. The E minor's good, but the second time around, the E minor's not good. Try something. It's a G. Oh, there it is. And then you're just building it, and it's exciting because you're like, wow, that came out of nowhere as the final product, and you haven't even produced yet. That's how I songwrite, and then I'll further the lyrics later and stuff like that. So let's use an example of. I know this is going long, but I figure we can just talk about this all day. Okay, so let's talk about. We can talk about one or two songs, Wonderland, or we can talk about Another Day. And let's talk about Wonderland. So Wonderland is a song that I wrote years ago, many moons ago, and this is an incantation of that I wrote many years ago, and it really sounded different back then. It was like a lot more smoother, slower, flowing. But what I did was I took the chords, but even when I wrote it back then, and this is similar to something like, I think it's Baba O'Reilly by The Who, and everybody's influenced by something, but you're going to have a major artist that you're going to want to sound like, or that you listen to so much, you're going to start sounding like, so there's nothing wrong with that. It's just make sure you have your own creativity in there. So I always love this chord. That's an E chord at the 12th fret without a bar, because there's the bar, it's not on, and the last two strings are open and the first string's open. So the E and the B, the two E's are open and the B, which are all part of an E chord. So this is such a pretty sound. And now if you played it down here, it's the same chord, but it's not as pretty. And this probably sounds a little bit like Baba O'Reilly. So then, you go to a B, go to an A. This is like it's a kind of very standard type progression. It's almost like a blues progression that it's your 1, 4, 5, I think. I mean, George Thorogood made his whole career, in my opinion, out of that progression in different ways, which is totally fine. It's a blues progression. Nobody owns it. You own what you do on top of it. So, here, that's kind of standard stuff. You can do it with a bar chord. But it sounds cool like this. And years ago when I did it, I love that, but then I added the D back up. So it goes back into the A. So again, I think it's kind of a standard idea, and using the open strings is kind of standard idea. And I just created that, and that was the chorus, but it's the vocal melody that's on top of it that is unique. So that's what makes your using a chord progression that's common, that anybody can use, unique, is adding that vocal melody that's different. So, didn't know the way to Wonderland. Didn't know that time is on our hands. Let me show you the way to Wonderland. You'll know that time is on our hands. I repeat that part because I wanted it to give a little tension before it goes into the verse. The verse was pretty easy. This is one that, I just started going. I like that. It was kind of like, So, after the B in the chorus, it goes back to the E. I'll tend to go to the same initial chord for the verse, so the ending chord out of the chorus tends to be my first chord into the verse. Doesn't have to be, but it's a good thing to try and do. Go from the last chord of your chorus into the first chord of your verse, or vice versa. So keep that in mind. It makes it easier. You don't have to do that, but it kind of works out. So that would be. Then that's kind of boring after a while. So now I went to an F minor. So it's, and that's the verse. And then I added the vocal melody on top of it. You can listen to the song. So, and then, when you come back, hold it a little longer, and then go back to the. That's how Wonderland developed. So it ended up, using a common chord progression, modifying it, adding a vocal melody on top of it, and then going to a very simple verse. So I'll tend to, if the chorus is kind of simple, I'll tend to keep the verse kind of simple and not go crazy with it. You can, but that would be me. So, okay. And the last one I want to show, and hopefully this helps, but again, it's all your own creativity. It's an instrument that you're using, and it's the ability to play around and try different chords and try different things, different speeds and different, do that part faster than the other part, or hold it longer, and just keep using all of that ammunition and things that you build up over time, and try it on different songs and see how it goes. And one last thing I want to point out, and this is with the song Another Day, is you can do things that you wouldn't think you would do. But try it. The verse chords in Another Day are the same chords in the chorus. What? Yes, they are. So it's basically G, D, A minor 7th. And it'll just go right into the chorus, the same thing. But the vocal melody changes and the production changes. But for some reason it worked. I just kept the same chords. Try it sometimes. Just change your vocal melody. Use the same chords, or just modify them a little bit. You don't have to become this, create this total orchestrated thing with 10 going things. There's two schools of thought here. When I look at Elton John, and if you buy an Elton John music book and you look at his chords and everything and how he writes, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, he'll use all kinds of chords that are, I wouldn't even think of, but they go right next with the next one and the next one, and they flow, and as they go, they're just amazing. And it's complicated. It's complicated in a lot of the songs. You look at some Beatles songs, a lot of Beatles songs, especially early Beatles, and it's the most simplest chords, but it's the vocal melody that was on top of it. I'm saying they're both great. I'm just saying there's two different schools of thought. You can create a Bohemian Rhapsody, or you can create a Love Me Do by the Beatles, which is simple. It's whatever you want to create, but just keep in mind, you don't have to have all these crazy chords. You can have the same chords in the verse as in the chorus. Okay, so let's talk about collaboration. This is very important. So you can, you know, work with other people when you're writing music. And maybe somebody writes the music, somebody writes the lyrics. That's awesome. But in a lot of situations, you're probably going to have two people who are writing music. And that's the kind of situation that I had before with a keyboard player friend of mine, where we both worked on music, but I was the only one that wrote the lyrics. So that's one situation. And today I work with another keyboard player, the co-writer of Yellow Butterfly. If you want to listen to that, it's a great song that, plugging myself and him. And we contribute something to the team that the other person may work on. So usually it's almost always that one member of the team will have probably the initial thing, initial song, and contribute maybe more to it than the other person. And then vice versa. It can happen where the other person has more stuff and, you know, coming to you for working with that, or sometimes you're just jamming and it happens. But any way it happens, the one thing you absolutely need is an agreement up front. Do not go into this without an agreement up front, because what's going to happen is that it's going to get sticky. You're going to, well, I wrote most of that song, so why should you have, you know, this and that? You don't want that. You really need agreement up front. And that's going to cross over into the copyright world too. So the way I work it, and it's the way the Beatles did it with Lennon and McCartney in the beginning, because in the beginning they were the only two writers, and not George or Ringo. And they, I believe, split 50-50 in terms of the songwriting royalties. And I believe historically that if Paul put more stuff into the song or came with the initial idea, it would say McCartney and Lennon. And if Lennon did, it would say Lennon and McCartney. I don't know if they stuck with that, but they were 50-50. In my collaboration with my partner, it's 50-50. It doesn't matter who brings the song. It doesn't matter how much you contribute. I could come in with a fully written song and work with him and record it, and it's going to be 50-50. Because he might come back with another thing that's fully written or mostly written, and it's 50-50. And then there's no argument, there's no nothing. The copyright is 50-50 too. If you do that, you're safe. Now, it gets stickier when you're going to work with a band or more than two people. So, when working with a band, you have to be careful, in my opinion, of what is the contribution of those folks in that band to the actual songwriting. Now, you've got to separate songwriting and producing. Okay? Now, you could make an agreement that if somebody comes in and adds a lot of stuff and ideas and instrumentation and stuff like that, you might want to put them on the copyright. I don't think that's generally a good idea, because it could be so fluctuating. I mean, it could just be a simple thing. Well, I want to be on the copyright. You know, so even with a band, you need an agreement up front. So I'll give an example that if I wrote a song with my partner and we brought it to our band, and I played bass, but let's just say I had a bass player, and the bass player came up with this great bass line. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Question comes down, if you don't have an agreement and it's just you and your songwriter, the question comes down, is that cool bass line copyrightable? Is that cool bass line makes the person part of the songwriting team because they wrote a bass line? It's up to you how you want to do that. In my opinion, only if that bass line, I'm just using bass as an example, only if that bass line actually significantly changed the song. It made a substantial change to the song. It was a big contribution that if you took that bass line out and put another bass line in, wow, the song really changed. So that would have to be really a prominent thing. Now, if you know, to me, that's generally not going to happen, because if I had a great bass line and I took it out and I put another bass line in that was great, it's just, you know, that's part of production to me. It's the same as ear candy. If you're adding a little, you know, ditty somewhere or whatever, and it really makes the song sound better, that's kind of more production. So that would probably be more on the sound recording copyright, because it's part of the sound recording, but as the owner of the song, I would say no. So just be careful. If you're working solo, you're fine. You just argue with yourself. If you're working with a partner, I would go 50-50. If you're working with a team, that's where it gets sticky. You really got to work out what really is the contribution of each person in that team. I did make the mistake before of where somebody was in the team, it was me and my partner, we wrote the song, and they added some ideas, which was more on the production side, and I put the person on the copyright. I really shouldn't have. I just shouldn't have. It did not significantly change the song. So anyway, those are the ideas in terms of collaboration. You know, it's great stuff to collaborate, and you just have to be willing to also, when you're collaborating, that if somebody, you bring an idea to the table, and another person puts an idea onto that, your partner say, and you don't like it, do you have a strong enough relationship to be able to say, I don't like it, and not hurt feelings? Because music is emotional, and people, and musicians, songwriters, we're all emotional people. So keep that in mind, that you have to be able to say whether you like something or not, and be able to come across and have that immediate agreement that, yeah, okay, you don't like it, that's cool, we'll table that, we'll work on something else, and we'll put all that together. So hopefully all of this stuff really helps you out in terms of just ideas and the process that I go through in writing a song. Everybody's different, it's subjective, it's cool stuff. You know, you might start with lyrics, whatever you do, it's awesome. Just really be creative and work at it. Don't give up on it. Don't accept a part because you can't figure out a better part, but you're not happy with the part. That, to me, that would be, I used to do that when I first started songwriting, and I was just, you know, oh, that's cool, and that D just that doesn't fit, you know, but you couldn't think of anything else, so you just accepted it. Now maybe it could be kind of funky, but you know, just be true to yourself that you love every part that you do, and if you're not happy with a part, keep working at it. Just keep working at it. Get away from it. Come back. I've done that. I can't figure this out. I've actually taken a guitar into a park one time because I couldn't figure out. I knew what I wanted. When I knew this is what it is. I'll hear it. I'll know when I hear it. And finally, it came to me, and it just, that's it. There it is. And I gave the patience to myself. So hopefully this helps. Hopefully the whole discussion here with songwriting. Please put your comments in. Please talk about how you do it. Ideas, and you know, hey Gabriel, that was great, but there's another way to do this, and I think maybe when you work with a co-writer, you should do this. Put them in the comments. Let's promote each other. Let's help each other out. And you know, if you like this, please like it. And if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, because I'm always coming out with new stuff, especially my show Radical Cathedral, which you want to check out. The episodes in that, it's kind of about life and stuff. Just check it out. Please subscribe, because I'm always coming out with new tutorials, and I love helping, and subscribing helps me too. So just hit that subscribe button and like it if you like it. And please, the most important thing to me, I always say this, is please share it to somebody who you know. Hey, I have a friend of mine who is a budding songwriter, and you know, your video is inspirational and gives ideas, and pass it on to the person. Please share. Okay, great. Have an awesome, beautiful songwriting, creative, just wonderful day. Take care.